I'm going to begin by reading our conflict of interest statement, which is such that in the interest of preserving public confidence in the actions of this board, the chair reminds the members of their duty to avoid conflicts of interest and ask if any member knows of any conflicts or potential conflicts of interest related to matters coming before the board. Hearing none, we're now going to have the invocation. Would anyone like to deliver the invocation today?
Ms. Wadsworth, I'd be happy to do so if no one else would like to.
Go ahead, Supervisor Lassiter.
Thank you. Y'all bow your heads with me. I'll take a moment and thank our Lord for allowing us to gather here today. I want to thank him for his abundant blessings of natural resources and for the supervisors that are sent here to do his work today. Lord, we just pray that we can be good stewards of all that you have provided us and that your will is done. Amen.
Thank you. We're now going to do a roll call of meeting attendees, starting with supervisors, then following with staff before guests, and then after that, I believe Supervisor Lassiter has a special recognition. So starting with supervisors, acting chair Jenna Wadsworth, present.
Nirvana Crew, supervisor.
Patrick Johnson, supervisor.
Scott Lassiter, supervisor.
Lisa Furr, Director of Wake County Soil and Waters, present.
John Beck, Natural Resource Conservationist.
Caleb Lippard, Natural Resource Conservationist.
Dwayne Holder in the County Manager's Office is present.
Abby Hazelton, Temporary Office Support.
Deanna Irizarry with Nrcs.
I feel like Sheila tried to say something. I don't know if I just.
I was wondering if Sheila did. I don't know if we could hear her or not.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm here.
And I got a new special staff person to introduce to you today. Lauren Hendrickson, our new conservation specialist, started on September 1st, is on the call. There he is. I see him now. So Lauren, I'll let you introduce yourself. If the supervisor allowed, just take a few seconds, and we're glad you're on board and happy to be part of Team Wake. So just take the time and introduce yourself.
Thanks, Teresa. Yeah, my name is Lauren Hendrickson. I'm the new conservation specialist. Looking forward to getting to know everybody and filling in here and being more involved. So thank you.
Nice to meet you. We're excited to have you on board. I believe
Welcome to the team.
Supervisor Cruz said, welcome to the team.
Thank you.
Now, any guest?
You will see Emily Brake too, and she's the student trainee for the Nrcs in Raleigh.
I also see Robin Hammond. I don't know if she's having issues with sound again.
I'm here. Thank you, Jenna. Robin Hammond, friend of the district, associate supervisor.
Okay, and do you all see anyone else calling in? I do not.
I do not see anybody else on the call.
Okay. Now I believe Supervisor Lassiter is asked to just say a few words about some special friends of the district.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chairwoman. I appreciate it. Folks, I appreciate you giving me this opportunity to take a quick moment of personal privilege. We do have some Boy Scouts who will be viewing this meeting after it's recorded and sent out to them after school. I want to send a special welcome to this Boy Scout troop 316 from Apex, North Carolina. They'll be viewing our meeting to help them satisfy their citizenship in the community merit badge requirements, where they're required to attend a public meeting. And we know that the work that the Boy Scouts of America does is directly tied into conservation and environmental education. So what a great chance to have these young people with us tonight. And a special shout out to one of our scouts, Reagan, who's also my neighbor. So thank y'all for that. And I promise to be on my best behavior.
That's excellent. I've been a big supporter and volunteer with the Girl Scouts since becoming a soil and water supervisor. I unfortunately was never a Girl Scout growing up. I wish I was. I've been lucky to participate with a lot of a number of different troops throughout the county and helping them get various merit badges. So I'm just so excited to hear that we're now, reaching out to the Boy Scouts, and I'm so excited for all of you all who may be watching the meeting later. The members of this troop, thank you so much for getting involved with conservation at an early age. Moving on, we will now have a approval of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda at this time.
So moved, Ms. Wadsworth.
Having a motion from Supervisor Lassiter, I need a second.
Second, Nirvana.
Second from Supervisor Crew. All in favor, say aye.
Aye, Nirvana.
Aye, Patrick.
Aye, Scott.
Agenda is approved. Moving forward, the approval of the August 11th board minutes. And before I entertain a motion for this, prior to the start of this meeting, I mentioned that there seemed to have been a word or a name of a training left out in item 6B. If we could pull up those minutes from the August 11th board meeting, just so that way supervisors can fully review that addition before we vote. While we're waiting for that, were there any other changes or errors or corrections that needed to be made?
I believe, Jenna, I believe that you should be seeing the minutes right now.
You can. So if you all will see under discussion items 6B, where there's the NRCS update, where it says EFT, the name of the second training, there was in the copy of the minutes that we received prior to this meeting, there was just kind of a line drawn as like a placeholder, probably. And so we just made sure that we made that change. Are there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the August 11th board minutes.
So moved, Nirvana.
So moved from Supervisor Crew. Can I have a second?
Second, Patrick.
Second from Supervisor Johnson. All in favor of approving the August 11th board minutes, please signify by stating aye.
Aye, Nirvana.
Aye, Patrick.
Aye, Scott.
The minutes are approved. Moving on to consent items. Cashier applications, contracts, requests for payment, extensions, cancellations, conservation plans, and Wake County BMPs. I believe this is you, Mr. John Beck.
Yeah, thank you. I hope everyone was able to review the summary sheet that we sent out. I'm going to go through all of the applications we have for you today, and then feel free to ask any questions as they arise. First section is conservation plans. We have 5 conservation plans for approval. 2 of the plans for James Jordan and Walton Family Farms are tied to cost share contracts. The plan for James Jordan is for pasture renovation on 15 acres, and the plan for Walton Family Farms is for cover crops on 92.39 acres. The next one is a plan for Stephen Perry that covers 4.5 acres of cropland conversion to grass. And that project is part of the Wake County Open Space Program. The next set of conservation plans are for the NIFWIF cover crop grant. One is for Brett Sears on 91.31 acres, and one is for Richard Todd on 50 acres. There are more than 2 NIFWIF applications presented this month. Some of those applicants already have active conservation plans, and for the others, we'll submit the remaining plans for NIFWIF projects at the October board meeting. So going down to the Cashier contract applications for this month, there are 2 for approval today. One is for James Jordan to complete a pasture renovation on 15 acres. We're planning to seed some Martin Protect 2 tall fescue, that's a novel endophyte species, and crimson clover on this is leased land that currently has a very inadequate forage cover. The planned amount for that BMP is $5,929. The other application is for 92.39 acres of cover crops for the Walton Family Farms. They're working to reduce sheet and rill erosion and building up their soil health through organic matter quantity in the soil. The amount on that application is $4,157. The next program type that we have an application for is for the Wake County Open Space BMP Fund. We have one application there for Stephen Perry to convert 4.5 acres of cropland to tall fescue pasture, and the amount is $1,482.30. That field is surrounded by woods right along the Little River, and the deer just decimate any crops that are planted in that field. And so we are working with him to convert that to some permanent grass, and that cool season grass is really important also for him because he's predominantly has warm season grasses for his cattle.
And John,
Yes.
while you're doing such a great job explaining, can you also, for our Boy Scouts that are getting their conservation badge from this, can you explain why that water source matters or why this is such an issue?
Well, the Little River in particular is a impaired waterway, and it's also potentially a future water supply source for Wake County residents, and so
Water.
particularly in this particular program, the Wake County Open Space Fund is actually land that the county owns in preparation for developing that as a water supply. And so we target impaired waterways all over the county for these practices because those are the ones that are most in need of conservation. So we're really trying to work hard to reduce the amount of sediment that comes from crop fields and nutrients that can run off into waterways to improve the water quality in those impaired waterways.
Thank you.
That good?
Yeah. I think it's hard too because we can't show certain contracts or things now because of certain laws and security and privacy issues. So I just wanted to make sure that we were providing some information to explain why we were doing what we're doing.
No problem. It has become more and more difficult to kind of get into that. We used to be able to show pictures just so that they know, but we're not allowed to do that anymore. But I'm trying to give as much as we can. Okay. So I'll go to the next section. These are for the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation grant that we got to put cover crops all over Wake County. It's for 2 years. This is the second round of cycle that we're going through. We received 15 applications, and all the applications were ranked using a standardized form that we developed that prioritizes erosion and nutrient reductions as well as the impacted waterways like we were just discussing. Then those applications were sorted by the points that they got on that ranking form, and the funding that we have remaining was allocated from the highest ranking applications until all the funds were accounted for. We were able to fund 9 of those applications, so we have 9 new NIFWIP contracts for approval. Those are for Caleb Jackson, Brett Sears, Terry Jackson, Johnny Watson Farms, Stephen Perry, Richard Todd, Greg Hip, Brandon Family Farms, and Ryan Broadwell. And all of I thought it'd be easier to kind of summarize those instead of going through them individually, but it's a total of $435.64 acres, sorry, that we will be applying cover crops to through that program, and totaling $32,459.90 allocated to cover crops to improve water qualities in those watersheds. There will be $495.60 remaining in that BMP line item, depending on how everything goes this year and how much we end up actually paying out, and then we can utilize the rest of that money the following year.
So just for clarification, the where it has the September state cost share program fund report in our packets and board member packets, so the number that you just listed is different than what I'm seeing, I believe, for available. So you're saying this September cost share fund report doesn't include if we vote for certain things today. Is that correct?
You're talking about the very last page of your packet that we sent out, the little green. Yeah, so the NIFWIP is not included on that chart.
Okay.
So that one is just the state cost share contracts. That's just the state cost share contract. So if you go up to the
Fish and Wildlife grant, we'll have. You're saying the National Fish and Wildlife grant will still have.
The 495 is just related to the Fish and Wildlife grant. So that one, we do have one more season that we can utilize, whatever's left over at the end of this year for that grant.
Those totals are on the blue sheet for the supervisor.
Yeah, at the very bottom of the blue sheet, it's there.
But still though, I guess then kind of rephrasing that the green last sheet for the program year, the dollars that are left in the other contracts, are those totals of what is still available left, what has not been encumbered? Do those, do the encumbered totals include things that are included that we're voting for today?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they do.
Just see where we stand.
Let's see.
I'm glad you asked that, Supervisor Wadsworth, because I was a little confused too, so thank you.
Yeah, with the grant and everything, we have a lot of different sources and money's running around. I guess for the next one, I can put them all together in one, and we can include the open space on there. So we do have a certain amount of money that we have in our budget for the open space contract, so I can add that one too, and then they'll all be in one place, and hopefully that's pretty straightforward. Okay, let's see. And then, so those are all the contracts. The last part is we do have 2 payments for approval this month. The first one is for Ryan Broadwell. He's completed the full 5-year program for conversion to no-till. So that it's called long-term no-till conversion on 14 acres. And so the payment amount for that one was $2,100. And that contract will be completed when that payment is processed. The second payment we have today is for the Fish Brothers Farm. This is a partial payment, so he's completed 2 of the practices on that contract, the land smoothing and filter strip practices, and the amount on those 2 was $7,838.
Are they new? Is this the first time we've worked with them?
Fish Brothers Farm? Yes, the contract we had with them was the first one they've done. And that, except for, I was going to go over that item at the bottom, that that you've brought up. The summary that you have there, we did not touch the impaired and impacted funds, so there's still $201 in that. With these the two cost share contracts that we added, we're down to $4,227 for cost share. And we did not have any Agrap applications this month, so that one is still at $1,356.
And that other CCAP fund, is that the one we're applying for? Like, we won't know until after the.
Yes. So the CCAP one, it's still zeroed out there because we haven't been approved for anything. So when that gets approved, then I'll add it to that line. So currently there's no funds allocated to us for that CCAP. The EEG funds is a carryover from a grant that they got, and we haven't applied that to a project yet.
Do we have a date that we must encumber that money by?
I can answer that, John. On the EEG funds, and I know everybody's on the call too, those were specifically allocated for our Perry and Russell contract, our stream restoration that is supposed to be on schedule to start, actually, I think this month, Abby. So she probably remembers that. So they hired a contractor and they had the permits to start. What we hope to do is we're going to partner with Wake County Cooperative Extension Service, Mitch, to do a workshop on stream bank stabilization and plantings for that. And we hope to maybe utilize some of this money that is designated just for that project. We can't use it on anything else because we've asked, because we actually need it on another project, but we can't use it. But we hope to use as much as we can from what was allocated to us on that project for any plantings, any part of the workshop, anything that we need to do to help offset the cost for that project to happen. But it has to be used on that specific project. Any funds that's not expended for that will be returned to the state and they will be reallocated.
So hopefully we should have an update on some sort of progress or progress report come next board meeting.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, and give you an update of, and maybe even some pictures we can share with y'all on the ongoing installation of that. So it's probably going to take a few weeks to a month or so for that project to be completed. So maybe we can just give you an update on the progress and how that's going on that project. And the regular CCAP that's left zeros there. We're just in a minute on your agenda, and we're going to finalize that letter of support that y'all will have for that project from last month. And then Abby and I will be working to submit our application for funding for that CCAP one. And I think it's due in October, but we're going to do it beforehand, of course. So we're hoping to get that one submitted, and hopefully we'll know about the new allocation of funds for CCAP for this project we're submitting at the January 2022 commission meeting. We should have that approved.
Just a little bit of clarification before I ask for a vote, because I'm assuming, John, that you've completed that information. Or do you have more that you need to share with us?
No, I've covered all my part.
Okay. And did you, because I mean, you did just talk a little bit about the Fish and Wildlife Foundation grant. Is that going to be do you have more to share with us separately after this, after we entertain a vote on this first item?
What is there something specific you were looking for?
Well, I see it's listed as an additional agenda item. And so
I see. Sorry. I just went in
separately from the conservation plans.
So we separated them on there, but I apologize. When I went through, I went through everything.
Okay.
At one time. Sorry.
So what we're gonna do, supervisors, we're gonna do two separate votes here. First, I'm going to entertain a motion for the approval of all cost share applications, contracts, requests for payment, extensions, cancellations, conservation plans, and Wake County BMPs. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Nirvana.
So
second.
Second from Supervisor Lassiter, I believe. All in favor, say aye.
Aye, Nirvana.
Aye, Patrick.
Okay, those have been approved. Now I will entertain a motion to approve any and all National Fish and Wildlife Foundation grant cover crop program applications. Is that good, John Beck? Is that acceptable? Okay. Is that the correct language that I should be looking for there?
Sorry, yeah, I think that works.
Okay. I will entertain a motion at this time.
I'm moving Nirvana.
Second, Scott.
Second from Supervisor Lassiter. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nirvana.
Aye, Scott.
Patrick.
There we go. Approved. So now we're moving into additional business items. We're going to start with the 2020-2021 District BMP Audit. I believe this is also you, Mr. Beck. You're on mute.
Nobody wants to hear me anyway. It's okay. Let me see here. I'll wait for Abby to pull that up.
And for our Boy Scouts at home, all supervisors receive documents about a week ahead of time prior to the meeting to be able to take the time to thoroughly review. So that way we know what we're going to be voting on when we come here, and we can just have last minute discussion and questions and clarification.
Yeah, and so what this document is basically an end of the year audit of the money that we've spent this year. And so we're required by the state program who provides this funding to basically do an accounting of what we say we've done with what their records show that we've done, and make sure that they match up, and just look for any errors. The good news is we didn't find any issues this year, so that's great. What you'll see on the form is all of the funding programs that we received this year. So the AG funds, the CC or CCAP funds, the CCG, which is the additional CCAP funds that we just talked about, CS, which is the cost share funds, and the II, or the impaired and impacted funds, which are connected to cost share for specifically identified impaired watersheds. That first amount of allocations is the amount that we received from the Division of Soil and Water Conservation for this program year, for the previous program year. So that's July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2021. That's the they call it PY program year 21. And the amount that we have encumbered in that program year, we encumbered all of our Agrap funds, all of our CCAP funds, all of the cost share funds, and all of the impaired and impacted funds. What that means is that we created contracts to utilize all of that money. That doesn't mean that all of that money is spent yet. It means that we have projects in place to implement practices utilizing those funds. The next two columns, the way that they want us to do it is to add up all of the money that we either spent or contracts that were canceled in the last 3 years. So the program year of 2019, 2020, and 2021. So we go back to all the accounting spreadsheets that we keep and verify that with our board approval sheets, and then in the Division of Soil and Water's online contracting system, and make sure all of those line up. So you can see we spent $21,330 in those 3 years on Agrap, which is the water resources program. We have not spent any CCAP money in those 3 years, or the regional allocation money that we got. I'll come back to that one. Or the CCAP money, which is the funds that are, hopefully we'll spend some of those this year. We spent $27,390 in cost share and $4,968 on the cost share impaired and impacted fund. The next column is the amount of funds that were canceled in each of those programs. The one I wanted to mention was the AP Agrap regional allocation. The reason the first two columns are blank there is because we just ended up canceling a pond repair project that was from 3 years ago. So we did not receive any of this money this year. So the first two columns are blank, but we did have a 2019 project that was canceled in that program year.
It seems so heartbreaking to cancel almost
know.
what, $83,000, $84,000 worth of contracts that we could have used. You want to talk? I mean, it just is what can we do to kind of prevent that amount of money from being canceled?
So, well, I'll say the CCAP, the CCG one there, that where it's $10,000 canceled, that wasn't actually canceled. That was because that money carried over, so they canceled it and then they gave it back to us. So that one's just a little misleading. The Agrap one, it's kind of interesting. The first column there, there's two reasons that number is so high. One is we had a couple of well contracts that didn't go through. They didn't end up getting installed. And those can be, average about $10,000 each. So, two contracts, two wells that don't go in, it adds up. The other reason sometimes that goes in is because when we do things like wells, we're not sure exactly how much because of the depth, so we'll end up overdoing it, and then we end up if they don't put it in that program year, we can't get those extra dollars back. So I kind of would expect to see something in Agrap, but it would be much lower if we could have got those two projects through.
Did COVID-19 cause any of this sort of cancellations?
I did. I mean, I'm not sure exactly about some of Teresa's contracts, but I know I had, I think, two that said they couldn't. One of the wells especially said that they were worried about the financial situation, and it was their. It's a long story, but theirs was going to actually cost a lot more because of a power situation. They were going to have to put in a new power pole. The price was going to go up, so they just didn't feel comfortable doing it. And I had some cost share contracts where there were items that they didn't end up installing because of the concern about funds.
And the CCAT one, I know Abby's on as well. She helped with that one. We're trying to push that one through, but it sounded like with the Martins, it was health concerns during this past year or so that we finally got trying to work on the design and getting the buffer variants and things needed, and then they started there were some health concerns, I think, with that with the landowners, the property owners that we were working with, and they decided to cancel.
Are there any other questions? Do supervisors have any questions, or I will entertain any discussion at this time? And this will be submitted to the division, is that correct?
Yeah, so what happens is this actually, we always do it at close to the end of the last fiscal year while we're still working everything, make sure all our books are good. But we go ahead and we get it approved, we get it notarized and signed, but then it actually gets attached to the next year's strategy plan, so we just hold on to it. And when we submit the strategy plan, I upload it with that document.
Hearing no further discussion, it doesn't seem there are any other additional questions. Supervisors, I will entertain a motion at this time to approve the Wake Soil and Water Conservation District Program Audit for July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021.
So move, Nirvana.
Supervisor Crew, do I have a second?
Second, Patrick.
Supervisor Johnson, thank you. All in favor of approving this audit, please state your name and say aye.
Aye.
Aye, Nirvana.
Patrick, aye.
Thank you. believe now we are moving on to a CCAP letter of support. Get my other screen up. CCAP letter of support. Abby, I believe this is on you.
Yes, thank you. We just made the edits that the board asked for, but ended up having to change the language a little bit more just to make it sound to flow. And since we had the time, we just decided that it would be best to present it to you again to make sure it had the sentiment that you were looking for. So the main changes were with the first paragraph. I don't know if you would like for me to read it out loud to you.
I think so, since we have two members on the phone.
Okay, it is my pleasure to write on behalf of the Wake Swan Water Conservation District Board a letter in support of the Community Conservation Assistance Program application for a stream stabilization project referred to as 92-2022-501 submitted by the Wake Swan Water Conservation District staff. This, and then we didn't change the second paragraph, and then we did change the third paragraph. In conclusion, we fully support the efforts of Wake Swan Water Conservation District as they seek CCAP funding to proceed with this stream restoration project in Wake County. And as I'm reading that, I realized there is an error because I said stabilization in the first and restoration in the second, in the last. The plan is just for stabilization, so I apologize, and we'll fix that to say stream stabilization project.
She said to change stabilization down in the last paragraph. I also am wondering if we should add a second paragraph. There is the third sentence, well, it says, while this project does not drain directly into a 303D listed stream, comma, it does flow into Honeycutt Creek and from there into Falls Lake. And I believe maybe we need a comma after Falls Lake, which is a drinking water supply for Wake County.
Okay, yeah, we could definitely do that.
So supervisors, where we've looked at this letter before. The major change that we're voting on now is just to make sure that this board is written so it comes from the board in support of the work of the district in doing this stream stabilization project and seeking CCAP funding. We're writing this letter to the division. We are voting now and assuming that we're all, do we need to vote separately on the changes first?
No, I don't think you have to. I think you could just vote as amended, that the changes, part of the changes as amended, and just vote once instead of having to do it twice.
The amended changes that we're going to make is a comma after Falls Lake in the second paragraph, just for clarity. And we're changing the word restoration to stabilization in the third paragraph in order for it to match the first paragraph. So at this time, I will accept a motion to approve the CCAP letter of support on behalf of the stream stabilization project referred to as 92-2022-501 with amended changes. Do I have a motion?
So moved as amended, Nirvana.
Supervisor Crew, do I have a second?
Second, Supervisor Lassiter.
Supervisor Lassiter, having been properly seconded, we will now vote to approve this letter of support. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Nirvana, aye.
That was Supervisor Lassiter at the same time. Now Supervisor Johnson. Thank you all. It has been approved. Moving on to Supervisor Schertz, and I believe this is also you.
Yes, thank you. I will stop sharing my screen. Sorry. So we sent some emails this past month about the shirts. The big thing that I would like for you to vote on today would be if you would like to allocate funds for one shirt or two shirts per board member. And I can work with you individually. I have selections from Scott and Nirvana. And so I'm happy to help. I just wanted you to see the whole catalog. I know it could be a lot, but I didn't want to limit your preference based off what I thought you would like. So if you want to email myself or Lauren to about your shirt selection, and I can work with you to help find what you want. But really what we are presenting you today is just for you to decide the number of shirts that you would like to allocate money for.
Board members, do you have any thoughts?
I know I have the blue short sleeve, and I'm okay with getting a long sleeve, but I know that Scott may not have any at all. So I think that would be appropriate for him to also have the blue short sleeve that we all have, and then take it from there. But I do know that most of us already have at least one shirt.
Before you jump in, Supervisor Lassiter, I was going to say something very similar to what Supervisor Crew did, which is that I think for any new board members, we should at least cover to make sure that they also, for parity, that they have the blue polos, the short sleeve polos that we all received, and potentially the t-shirt if they want that. And then, maybe an additional shirt if they would like an additional shirt if we're going to vote to approve for other board members to have at least one more. Supervisor Lassiter, did you have some remarks or thoughts?
No, ma'am, that's perfect. That's very similar to what we do as a school. When you have new staff members, provide a little extra, what have you. I think we usually do a monetary amount that somebody's comfortable with, and then just, you choose up to that, and then the rest is on the individual staff member. So I'm not sure how y'all want to approach that.
Staff thoughts? I mean, I do believe that as new supervisors should receive that same, the same amount that we all did, right? So there's that parity.
I'm not sure personally what t-shirt you're talking about. I know the only new supervisor I suppose since I've been on is Nirvana, and all we purchased for her was a polo. So if there's something else, it hasn't happened since I've been here. I apologize. Unless there's something that I'm not recalling. Teresa, was there t-shirts like some other time?
I remember the polo, but I don't remember the t-shirts. But Dale, of course, was in my role here as director, so I don't think I was involved with the supervisor ordering those shirts at the time. So I don't have a recollection which we end up doing. So
I remember seeing
I'm showing how long I've been sitting on this board for.
Yes,
I'll just kind of run together. I believe it was a green t-shirt with the white kind of district insignia, and it was under Dale when Dale Retailer was.
Yes, I remember that because that was when I got here, and mine says staff, and under it has like the old logo, and it says in there it said supervisor.
Yeah.
And Dale said something like, I don't know, boss or something like that. But yeah, it was probably 2017 or 2018. I think she got 2 for everybody.
Perhaps that was associated with some grant funding at the time from the.
I don't know.
I think
because that's when you had the Lindsay that grant, and I remember seeing some information from Jessica about that.
I think they did.
It had to have been before 2018, before I came on. So it had to have been before then.
I think it was like a tote bag and a t-shirt for certain members.
Yeah, it's up to the board what they want to do, but
we also purchased one for the county manager David Ellis too. So we caught him wearing it, so kind of proud of that. So in one video he did. So I know we did get one for the county manager as well. So Dwayne may be jealous on the call now, so I'll see what I can work out for him as well. So
here.
Yeah. So I do think that given that information and that clarity that y'all provided, I think that for new supervisors, the board definitely, without kind of thinking about any additional shirts for them, the polo should definitely be covered. Kind of all new supervisors, right?
Yes.
And then if we want to talk about an additional shirt, because I know that also people grow and change. The pandemic has not helped with maybe some of us keeping the same figure. So, you know, and shirts, depending on how often you wear them, especially in adverse conditions, they may not be bright and crisp like they once were. So I don't know if we want to now, if there's some sort of motion that we're looking for to be able to, you know, not only fund the standard kind of blue monogram polo for any new supervisors, and then one additional shirt. I don't know if we want to set a dollar value for all other supervisors who want to, who would like a new kind of uniform shirt.
And I will say, Jenna, if I may, that our vendor told me that sometimes he can get the shirts for less than the website, but I wouldn't know how much it's gonna cost until like I know what everyone wants, and then he tells me what price he's able to get them for. But he did say that sometimes he can get them for less. And I believe that the t-shirts that we've used in the past were between like $11 and $15, I believe, just for a reference point, if that was still on your radar for t-shirts. But I think that like size and depending on if you male or female, shirts can change the price widely. So I'm not sure if you were considering like a certain amount or just a number, because there can be a wide range if we're not requiring everyone to get the exact same.
And we know shirt.
Well, I went on the cheaper side of things because I'm just nice like that. So mine was inexpensive, I like to think.
I think that sometimes shirt pricing can be a bit sexist. If you get the women's cut, sometimes it's a bit more expensive sometimes.
Vice Chair Wyatt,
you do have the funds in your budget, so you know, to do this. I do think it's needed. You know, we do a lot of outreach events. I know this year Supervisor Lassiter and crew as well will help Sheila with a watershed stewardship awards. You know, and it's nice to be able to have something really nice to wear and represent the district and have that at those special events. You know, when you're being a supervisor and representing that. So I'm all for it. You know, I don't believe there's an issue. I do believe you have the budget for it. So just really what y'all's preference is voting and what you want. You know, we can do it. We can take care of the rest. So.
And I'll also say I've worn my polo to area meetings because it nicely identifies you. It's very, you know, it's very nice and uniform looking, but it also, I've worn it to multiple spot checks, and I found that it was particularly nice this time around when sometimes we have on, you know, face masks. It's an easy way for folks to identify who you're affiliated with, so they have a level of comfort when you're walking on their land, right? If if you're up close and maybe you don't feel comfortable pulling down your face mask or anything else, they can see the district insignia. Supervisor Lassiter.
Yes, ma'am. You know, I'm all into, I really believe in some of the value of promotional products, particularly with a department that needs, does so much community outreach and direct assistance with the public. So I would love to make a motion that we provide supervisors in this year's budget with a up to $75 a piece to provide for their own payroll needs for branding of the district. And then also, we haven't discussed this, but I do believe the budget would support some allocation for general promotional products for the district, whether those be the t-shirts or whether those be something that Teresa and your staff feel like are excellent resources when you have keeping the farm workshops and things like that. That'll just bring some awareness to the district. Be surprised what a little bit will do there. So I was looking at a total allocation. I guess the supervisors 5 times 75 would be $375, and then Teresa, can you do something with about $225 for a promotional outreach product that would sell and help you?
Yeah, we could do that. What we could do is gather some things together and bring it back to you at the next meeting and let you know kind of what it's costing and the type of items and let y'all make the final decision. I would have preferred that, y'all make the decision on the type of outreach items and make sure that y'all comfortable with that, whether it's pens or cups or, we've done some stuff in the past. I know Sheila and I have been here and have ordered some of those kind of giveaways in the past, and we don't have any more, of course. And so it would be nice to do that again. So we can research that and bring the keepsakes or the giveaways kind of deal, at the next board meeting, if that's okay.
I know that we have it. It sounds like we have a motion on the floor. I'm gonna need some clarification because I've heard a couple different numbers being thrown out, and I believe I'm getting a text from Supervisor Crew. I think that we're both kind of a little confused about what if you could just maybe restate and clarify these numbers, if you would.
Okay, let's do that. We'll keep it simple with what we've discussed and talked about, and that'd be $75, up to a $75 allowance for supervisor apparel. And we'll handle the other situation through another process or another meeting. So that would be the motion.
Yeah, my phone keeps going in and out, so I was like confused. I'm like, what's he asking to do? I'm a little lost. So yeah.
And just because we would have $75, y'all, doesn't mean we have to spend $75.
Right.
That's my granny would want us to make that very clear. Okay, well, we have a motion. Do I have is there discussion before I have a second? Is that what I see a staff hand raised?
Just for clarification, Jenna, my question would be, does that include the initial blue polo as part of that 75, or is this a separate thing?
Supervisor Lassiter will have to speak to his motion, but I believe that it likely does, with the number being 75, it would likely include that.
Mm-hmm. I think that's perfect.
Okay, so yes, to answer your question. Having a motion on the floor, can I get a second?
Yeah, Patrick, second.
Now that your motion has been properly seconded by Supervisor Johnson, all in favor, and just to clarify, we are voting on a $75 kind of allotment per supervisor for these miscellaneous shirts for the year. All in favor say aye.
Nirvana.
Aye, Patrick.
Mr. Laster, are we voting today?
Thanks. Yes, ma'am. Aye, Scott.
Okay, there we go. And so that being said, what kind of process would you like from us, Abby, about getting back to you about that?
Right. I guess my preference would just be to email Lauren and I with your selections, and we can add up the numbers. I believe there's a minimal fee for the embroidery, so I can look and see what exactly that might be. The numbers might be like a little flex, because he did tell me he thinks he can get them a little less than the website, but just assume that it's about that. And I will get a quote once you send me your selections.
Let's set a date for when you want that to happen.
I mean, I would love to have them for you as soon as possible. So if you could have your selections for us, the 15th of September, is that okay? That's next Wednesday.
I think that sounds good. And if you haven't heard from us, feel free to annoy any board members.
That sounds good. And then since we have this motion has been approved to spend the money, we don't have to come to you before we order. We can just go ahead and order. Would be my understanding.
Correct.
So I think that is all. I guess
I would reach out to Chairman Dean too,
yes,
directly about this, right? So he has additional clarity.
Yes, I will do that. And I guess the discussion for the board would just to be if this is a moving forward, maybe if this is like a standard for a new board member, or if this was a one-off, or how often you want to do that. I think the language as is says it's this year, but just for future, I guess.
The language in the motion that we voted on and approved was for this year.
Right.
So perhaps that is a can that we kick down the road.
Sounds good. Just wanted to make sure that I wrote it clearly so it wasn't confusing for future. So thank you.
Very well. Moving on to discussion items, y'all. We are going to have our education update from Sheila.
Yes, it's September and we have rolled out our education programs. We're on a roll. And I just wanted to ask Supervisor Lassiter first, the Scout troop that is going to listen to our board meeting later, is that a Boy Scout troop, or is it a Cub Scout pack?
It is a Boy Scout troop. Yes.
Okay, so they're older. All righty. Well, the poster contest has been rolled out, and this year's theme is Soil and Water, Yours for Life, and it's for grades 4 and 5. So if the Boy Scouts have any siblings that are that age, we would love them to join in. Scouts are eligible to enter, and teachers and the Scout leader would receive a study guide, a rubric, and a correlation to the North Carolina Essential Standards, along with 4 Google slide sets to help them learn about soil erosion by water, the Dust Bowl, and the father of conservation. His initials are HHB. Who is he? You've got to find out. And then BMPs, a new way of farming, just like what conservationist John was talking about. He mentioned cover crops, no-till, and they'll learn about several others too, like strip cropping on the contour, riparian buffers, livestock exclusion fences, all that kind of thing, just what our conservationists do. And then the 4th one is on art tips and the contest rules. So far, we've only have 6 schools entered, but that's 2 more than last year because of COVID. So we're hoping more will join us. We always are kind of slow to start. And the student posters are due October 29th to give us time to judge them and get the top 10 to the board at your November 10th board meeting. So that's the poster contest. It's out there, and I'm hoping several more schools and Scout troops and Cub Scout packs and other youth groups will enter. We welcome them all. And this year we're doing the regular size poster, which is 22 by 28, I believe, not the little 8.5 by 11. And if anything should happen, we can always take photos and make them electronic so we can still judge them. And then we also rolled out the Envirothon. That's for grades 5 through 12. So Scout Troop 316 could actually form a team, an Envirothon team. It's from 3 to 5 members. 5 are preferred because you can put 5 heads together. And you compete in soils and land use, aquatic ecology, forestry, wildlife, and current environmental issues. And the teams have a lot of fun with it. And last year it was virtual COVID, both the regional competition and the state. But we had a great time, and Wake County teams did very well. So far we have 6 teams, and 3 are returning schools and 3 are new schools. And so that's real exciting. We have some new schools, and I'm sure there will be several more. So hopefully we'll have a lot of teams from the county again. And Area 4 Envirothon hasn't set a date or a site yet, but it will be in Warren County if it's in person. And if not, they'll go back to virtual, depending on the status of COVID. And then the state Envirothon will be April 29th and 30th of 2022. And that is always at Cedar Rock Park if it can be in person. Otherwise, it'll be virtual. But so far, they're hoping it'll be in person. They really want to get back in the woods and get outside because that's what the Envirothon is all about. So then we rolled out Wake County Big Sweep. It is posted now on the WakeGov website, and we have 15 litter cleanups. 10 are open to the public and 5 are for private groups. And again, Scout Troop 316, you can join one of our scheduled cleanups, or you can create your own private one, and I can provide you some supplies, bags, gloves, and litter grabbers, and some data cards, unless you want to use the Clean Swell app. So, and guess what? Our fall season is kicked off this Saturday. Lake Johnson Park is having their special event sponsored by Foothills Brewing Company, which is kind of extra exciting because this is one of the few cleanups that have a volunteer appreciation luncheon afterwards. But you had to pre-register, and they filled up to their 100 capacity within a week of being promoted. So they are already chock full, and they're looking forward to this Saturday. I hope the weather cooperates. And I wanted to let the board know that one of our watershed stewardship schools, Lincoln Heights Environmental Connections Magnet in Fuquay-Varina, they just got a $42,000 grant from North Carolina Green Power for a solar array and a bunch of other solar education materials and whatnot, but they still have to raise some of their own funding. And I just included a little link there if you want to donate anything towards them. But that's really exciting. They're going solar. And to my knowledge, the only other school that has a solar array in Wake County, as far as the public schools, is Athens Drive High School. So this is exciting. And Zebulon Elementary also got this grant, and I'll be reaching out to them to see if they want to be a watershed stewardship school. We would love to have them. And then Wake Green Schools Partnership is still rolling. They're going to offer a series of webinars to teachers about getting students outside to learn and how we as non-formal educators can help them in doing that. So that's the education report. Does anyone have any questions?
I have two. First of all, just as a reminder, how do schools and teachers get involved with the Wake Green Schools Partnership?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
How do schools and teachers get involved with the Wake Green Schools Partnership?
Oh, I can send them a link. We do have a website. I believe it is hosted by the Water Resources Research Institute over at North Carolina State University. But we have a website, and it has all kinds of resources on there. And of course, if they're on my email list, if any teacher is on my email list, they will get notifications. But yes, either I can send them a link, and I'd be glad to do that. And then they can sign up, and they'll become part of the database of the Wake Green Schools Partnership.
Can you also send that link to supervisors in case we have teachers we'd like to share that with?
Oh, that would be wonderful. Send it far and wide. That would be wonderful. I'll do that. I'll put that on my to-do list.
And then my second question was, is there any way that we as supervisors can be sent this environmental education report? Because I don't believe it was included in either of the emails for our meeting packet.
No, because it's hot off the press this morning because I'm running a little behind. But yes, I can send that to you too.
Perfect. Thank
So
you.
I'll send you the education report and the link to the Wake Green Schools Partnership.
Lovely. Thank you. Any other questions or thoughts on the education report before we move forward from anyone? Thoughts?
Just wanted to note our scout troop is planning to do a litter cleanup, so they'll be in contact with you, Ms.
Yay. That's wonderful.
Amazing.
And I also have a scout email list, and I would always like to add scout leaders. So if you have any more scout leaders, I'll add them to our list so we can always stay in touch with them. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have our NRCS update.
All right. Did you all hear me well?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. So the NRCS in North Carolina has announced the fiscal year 2022 Environmental Quality Incentives Program, the EQIP program, application deadline of October 29th. In the past, it's been like November, but just keep in mind this year it's October 29th for farm and private landowner to be considered for available funding. So we encourage everyone to put an application as soon as they can so they don't miss that deadline. If they miss that deadline, there's a good chance they will be considered for the following fiscal year. So if you know of someone that is looking to do some cover crop for soil health or want to do no-till, crop rotation, maybe irrigation, something that will, improve the environment and for soil quality or water quality. It all depends on the farm, right? So I have to do the conservation plan for that farm and see what resource concerns are in the farm so we can use those conservation practices that we may pay them to do to address those resource concerns. Same thing with pasture. If you know of someone that needs to fence out a stream or pond and they need a water for the livestock, that can be done through EQIP. Also, I want to keep you in mind that the cattle also can apply for kind of like confinement if they have livestock confined on an area, and you may need a dry stack, or we call it a waste storage facility. That's something that we can pay. So it's not only like chicken and poultry, or hog operation. It can be done on a beef operation or any type of livestock operation. Also, the forestry related practices, it could be like pre-commercial thinning, tree planting, prescribed burning, and fire breaks can be done through EQIP. And also pollinator habitat too, wildlife flower planting and grasses for pollinator and for wildlife too. And our typical practice that we have that I always have like 5 or 7 of the application for high tunnels. And seasonal high tunnels are very competitive. This year I did not get anyone get funded through EQIP for high tunnel, but that application will stay in the system. And if they're eligible again, they can reapply for the following fiscal year. So if you know of someone that they're thinking about putting an application for high tunnel, they should put it right now and see when they get funded. It may take 2 or 3 years to get funded because it's a very competitive. So that's what we have for EQIP. October 29th is the deadline. And the other thing I have is in my report is Emily Brake. She was the summer intern in Wake County here, and she got approved to be a part-time this semester year. So she's gonna get paid to be an intern this semester, and she will be working only on Wednesday and Friday. So that's a good thing. We're gonna have another extra help here. So I know Teresa and the Soil and Water District staff, if you need any help, we're gonna have Emily here to help us in anything that you need. And that's all I have to present unless you have any questions.
Any questions from supervisor or staff at this time?
Just a comment, we glad to have Emily back. I know she's on the call, and she helped us a lot this summer with our surveying for the designs of the grass waterways and did an excellent job. And we're definitely fortunate to have her back. So good job of getting her back, Deanna. We appreciate that. So we need all the help we can get. So thank you.
Thank you for your report. Next, we have the Friends of the Wake Soil and Water Conservation District update, and I believe Robin Hammond will be presenting that. Robin?
Okay. Can't hear me. We had our OSPAD. That was a really good meeting. We got an update for the Callum Wyatt farm. I know that you all know about that farm, Susan Wyatt, and the City of Oaks Foundation has a concert. And
Robin, you're cutting out just a little
really
bit. I don't
good
know if
news
it's just me,
here.
but
I don't,
It's not.
don't
Robin?
exactly
Robin, can
know
you hear me?
what, yes?
Okay, you're cutting out quite a bit. So we're only hearing every
Okay.
few words, like every third or fourth word sounds like. So we're playing, yeah. I don't know if it's maybe your signal or where you are. Want to try
I'm going
again?
to move to a different location. Yeah, I'm going to move to a different location. Is this any better?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I think I don't have a good signal in my back room. Okay, so what I was saying is we OSAPAC met and we met at Blue Jay Point. That was our second opportunity to have an outdoor meeting. And we got an update on the master plan for the Callum Wyatt farm. And I know that that's a farm y'all are familiar with. Susan Wyatt and her husband gave a conservation easement to the City of Oaks Foundation. And the district staff has been working with the Parks and Recreation, also as the county Parks and Recreation, on developing the master plan. The other good news is that the friends will meet tomorrow, and we had an opportunity to participate in a fundraising venture with a clothing store at Crabtree called Altered States, which is a women's clothing store, caters to, I'd say, high school, college, up to age 30 or so women. And what they do is every quarter they select a nonprofit, and they selected the Friends for their water conservation nonprofit for the last quarter. And they gave out our brochures and donated a percentage of store sales to the Friends. So we got a check last week for $5,500 that we'll be contacting Sheila, I think, to talk about using some of that for Envirothon in educational materials that she wants to start a collection, an in-house collection. So that's really good news. And our meeting is tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. If anyone needs the Zoom link and didn't get it, please let me know and I'll send it to you. Thanks.
Great update. And what an exciting piece of news to hear about the amount of money that the Friends are receiving from Altered State and how that will help our educational programming. That's excellent. And you know, maybe Teresa, could you send out for any supervisors that are available that Friends of the District link?
Yes, I will. Yes, I will forward that to y'all. I have the link, and I will be attending the meeting tomorrow at 8. And Lauren, I've asked Lauren to join us too, to introduce him to the members of the Friends of the District, the chair members as well. So he'll be joining us. I'll send that out to all the supervisors and anybody that would like to attend. So
excellent.
They got a big agenda tomorrow. They're busy. So
they are, and we're so grateful for the Friends. The last item on our agenda is staff updates, and I am going to ask that we also include that the annual report perhaps in the staff updates.
Yes, ma'am. Actually was. And that's why I sent that along, to try to include that for y'all to be able to give me any feedback or anything that you may have on that finalized versions. Staff has already did that, but I'll start with staff updates and then I'll get into that because that may take longer. Staff updates of where I've are as far as recruitment and getting personnel in place. We're almost there. So with Lauren coming on September 1st and replacing the vacancy in the conservation specialist position, we've got those positions that's been posted and filled. The last one is our brand new position that we're really excited about, and Sheila definitely is. As you know, we worked so hard for many years through the budget process, is our part-time big sweep coordinator position. It was posted and we received, I think I told you last time, 16, 17 applications. Well, we have interviewed 2 of 4. And so the interview this Thursday again, will be the 3rd interview this coming Thursday, tomorrow. Sorry, it's a short week, so I keep thinking Thursday's coming later, but it's tomorrow. So interview tomorrow. And then our last interview will be next Tuesday. So we're interviewing 4 for our part-time big sweep coordinator. So far, we are very impressed with the talent and the the folks that we have applying, the 4 that we've got. So we're extremely blessed to have this type of talent, this type of professional people coming after this position, because we know how important it is to show the need to grow the Wake County Big Sweep program. We've got a lot of people, zone captains, a lot of volunteers that want to make a difference and to clean up these watersheds. And we're hoping that this position will grow and promote this program to another level that Sheila just couldn't give it, because she was trying to do that along with her environmental education, as you saw from her report today, along with the other job duties that she's been, and she was hired as environmental educator, not really a volunteer coordinator. So we're very excited about that. I know Sheila is. And so hopefully by your next board meeting, we'll have a selection made and hopefully let you know when that part-time Big Sweep coordinator will be starting with us, and picking right up with the Big Sweep events that's already been planned and going forward for this fall. We hope to get them in time that they can get involved and start making those connections and building those relationships with those volunteers and zone captains, and help to promote for the spring coming up. The annual report, finally, I've got that off my desk, and staff has provided a lot of great edits for me to put that together. Even with even a COVID year, as you saw, this whole year for that annual report was all COVID. It hit and been impacted. I do think it has been impacted some, especially with our numbers of customers and things like that, because people just don't walk in or call and things like they had before. But as you saw, the contracts and the
pull it up? Can we
yes.
display it while you're?
Yes, maybe if Abby can grab it real quick.
Sorry, I didn't have it pulled up, so it'll take a second.
Okay.
But or wait. Oh, I do have it. Sorry, I'll pull it up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And this, I'm welcoming any feedback. It hasn't gone out yet to the public, to anybody on our website. The only person that has it's my boss that's on the call, Dwayne. I did send that as part of the board packet to him to get a first glance of that. Try to put some pictures in there, projects we've been working on as well, identifying the numbers, and these numbers represent both state cost share programs and our federal programs as well, because Deanna and all of our, we work together very closely on a lot of the same projects and helping each other's out, conservation plan acres, things like that. And so all of this is, our numbers are kind of totaled together there. I wanted to kind of highlight our grants, not only our NIFWIF grant, but I also wanted to highlight the other Division of Water Resources grant, 319 grants that received for the Black Creek watershed stream restoration that will go on there, and how much money that the district has brought in for that project. Also, our outreach as far as keeping the farm workshop and some of the things that we've done this year to help, even in COVID times, help kind of keep going and keep giving our customers the information and the updates that they needed throughout this year. And then lastly, we kind of wrapped it up. Sheila used to have just one page. I was picking on her the other day. Now Sheila's got like 3 pages. So Sheila's done a lot of work with environmental education. And so I really want to highlight the poster contest, the award winners, Envirothon. Wake County is at the top of the not only the state, but in the country a lot of times with Envirothon teams and representing us. The watershed stewardship schools, being able to get both of those in this year was amazing. And then the straws and the grant that she received from Ocean Conservancy, and what she was able to do with that. Those numbers, if you look there on the last page, were just we far reached a lot of teachers, a lot of classrooms, a lot of students were able to access this information and understand that. So yeah, I just wanted you to have all that information on that. So let me know if you have any feedbacks, anything that you like or don't like, what we can include in the future if there's something. But I tried to highlight our big things that we accomplished this program year. So.
I think it looks really good. I would like, if possible, to kind of change my name from Jennifer to Jenna on the.
Yes, I can. Absolutely. I hadn't sent it out, so I can do that, Jenna. Sorry.
It's okay.
I think it was always been on there like that way. And so
I think it has too.
I just assumed that it wasn't, but thank you for letting me know that, and I'll make sure that gets changed. Absolutely. No problem.
Otherwise, I think it's a beautiful report. if supervisors have any other thoughts on it, feel free to share now. Also, if any other staff members have any updates. Hearing none. Before we go, I will note for those who can't see the chat that Robin Hammond also wrote that Triangle Land Conservancy is having a ribbon cutting at Williamson Nature Preserve at 10 a.m. on September 17th. That's 10 a.m. on September 17th, and that we are all invited, and the original ceremony was delayed due to COVID. I'm sure that if you would like additional information, you can reach out to Robin for that.
I do have one more comment, Jenna, that I got an email today, so I wanted to update y'all. And Dwayne knew I met with him this morning. I did, Abby and I did get together. Dwayne had sent us and kind of that out to all the county departments, the ability to ask for American Rescue Plan Act funding from the federal government. For certain things, they said it checked all the boxes as far as COVID goes and some of the things that we could do that. And so me and Abby kind of got together and kind of wrote a proposal of some things that we've been working on as far as our cost of community services study. As you know, we've applied for a grant to the North Carolina Department of Agriculture for that. Still hasn't heard anything. It's kind of frustrating with the state budget not being passed and not knowing and when and if we'll know if that's successful or not. We have a call coming up that we're hopefully find out some more information on that. And then once that happens, then we can apply to update our farmland protection plan. And so that's a goal of mine. That's a goal of mine going forward. Several county commissioners have expressed to me the need to start doing something as far as farmland preservation, maybe actually doing our enhanced voluntary ag districts, anything that we can do to slow down the loss of farmland and active forestry land, things like that in the county, to try to preserve that as long as we can, because we know that what makes Wake County the place to live, and the people draws people here is these open spaces and the beautiful that we have. And Dwayne, I don't know if you saw it, but I got an email from Emily Lucas, is the Chief Financial Officer for Wake County, that our that project that we submitted for funding for the ARPA funding portal has been approved and is, I guess not approved, but has been reviewed as eligible. Right. And will move on to further consideration in our funding review process. It sounds like it now goes to the county manager's office for further evaluation and prioritization funding at the end of this month. So just keep your fingers crossed that maybe, not saying it will, but at least I'm trying every avenue that we can to try to get this done as soon as possible, move our goals along and try to get them funded as soon as we can. So I thought that was good news, Dwayne, that Emily, you sent that email earlier saying at least we bypassed the first step, but hopefully maybe in the next step our proposal will look good and we maybe receive some funding for that as well. But just to keep y'all in the loop and up to date on some of the things that we're doing to continue to try to improve that and get that done as soon as possible.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions from anyone?
Just want to say thank you, Teresa, for what you're doing to push for this department. And I think our deputy manager is doing an excellent job of using the Soil and Water Conservation District as a vehicle to provide some really good things for, common sense solutions for our county. So, man, welcome aboard and thank you for thinking about us and plugging us in where possible.
Yeah, we're very blessed with Dwayne. I don't know if y'all knew this or not, but he worked in Pitt County with Brian Evans, and he knows soil and water. And I've been here for 15 years now, and this is the first deputy county manager that has came in that kind of knew what soil and water did already. So it's been a blessing because I usually have to start from scratch and kind of take it. And I'm taking him out tomorrow in the field, but.
Without the time.
He knows exactly what we do, and that really helps us in this process. So, yeah.
That's
been
awesome.
there, done that, worked with soil and water districts. I know in Pitt, I think Cumberland County as well. So,
yes.
Yeah. So we're very blessed that we don't have to start all over again. So, yeah.
Now, Mr. Holder, you'll really impress me if you know about drainage districts. Now, did you ever deal with any of those wild animals?
I did not. I'm familiar with voluntary ag, but have not dealt with drainage sanitary district.
Okay, yeah, Cumberland has its own, right?
Yep.
Interesting stuff.
And we're so grateful that you joined us for the duration of our meeting. That means a lot to us to see here and actually be a part of this process. And you know, on that note, I would like to thank everyone for their participation and patience during this hour and a half of your time. As a wrap up, staff, please send us the education report. Please send us the link for teachers to get involved with Green Schools. Please send us the Friends of the District link. If there are any other outstanding documents, maybe even edits to any documents that we reviewed or discussed today, that would be appreciated. I think that's kind of the summary. That being said, and assuming there are no additional comments at this time, I will entertain a motion for adjournment. Supervisors, this is on you.
Moved.
Can I get a second, please?
I second that.
I think that Mr. Lassiter is trying to say second, but he's on mute once again.
I'll second that. Second that.
Having been properly seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye, Patrick.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you all for calling in.
Have a great afternoon. Thank you.
See you all in October.
Bye-bye.
Hey, Teresa? I don't know if Teresa's still there. I don't know if I have to sign anything. Abby?
I'll ask her, Jenna.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. I don't know if because Thomas wasn't here, if that means that